Hey guys, Butzelman945 here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing the second Persona 5 idea I had, which I'm going to rank all the palaces. Little note before we begin, I'm not counting Mementos as a palace. I know it's like technically everyone's palace, but no, it's not a palace. No, it's not a palace. Um, Also, I'm going to be judging this based on a couple things. Number one, the general layout and traversal slash enemy difficulty by area. Two, the puzzles and other gameplay elements. Three, the central characters that it focuses on, their development, the story around it, and the villains. Number four, the boss fight, and five, the general aesthetic and idea behind the palace. Um, now pretty easy dead last is Okumura's palace. Because I really did not like the stuff with Morgana's character. I thought that really dragged down this part of the story, and it also really weakened Haru's ability to shine here because that was clearly the character they wanted to focus on, but instead it just kind of feels like Morgana was shoved in there. I do think Haru has some cool moments. I think overall, in the grand scheme of Persona 5 villains, Okumura is definitely one of the weaker ones. And in terms of the palace mechanics, the the sci-fi design is okay, I guess, but there's a lot more creative designs, I think, and also the puzzles suck. The puzzles are so bad. Whether you're talking about that one on the factory floor, that stupid Astrolocks puzzle, the puzzles are so annoying, and there's even possibilities to completely trap yourself, especially with that stupid Astrolock puzzle. Like the very first time when you're playing through it, it's really dumb. Um, Especially because it's one of those ones that's hard to complete in one go, like I like to do with palaces, which is another thing I don't like. Um, I don't like the fact the boss fight is timed. I thought that was incredibly stupid. Um, I don't really remember many other details aside from that fight. Um, Now this next one might be a tad controversial, but at least based on other rankings I've seen, because at number 8 I have Seinijima's Palace. Again, Okuma's I think is the only one that's genuinely pretty bad and not very fun to play through. Um, but Seinijima's I really like the concept behind it being a casino. I like how it relates to her character a lot. And I definitely wasn't expecting to get a palace for her character. I thought that was a very interesting direction for the story to take. And I think the way that they managed to wrap it in the beginning and tie all those events together, include the flashback parts and include Akechi's betrayal into that. I thought was really interesting. Um, but I really didn't like the gambling portions of it. It kind of felt rushed. No, not rushed. It felt really annoying, and I felt like there were way too many parts that relied on that gimmick. I know it was casino and gambling was the whole idea, but I feel like that whole thing was overused. Um, I really enjoyed the battle arena. I thought that was quite fun. But however, I really didn't like the maze. I thought the maze was incredibly stupid. I also thought that like it was way too easy to cheese using Third Eye exclusively throughout the entire thing. Um, I didn't like the maze part whatsoever. Um, I don't really remember much from the boss fight. But I did like the elemental typing part of it. I thought that was kind of interesting. Um, it is cool that Akechi finally becomes part of your party in this palace. But I don't know. Overall, it's just like to me. Um, and the same thing I think overall with Shido's palace. Because I think that I think like the idea behind it being a cruise ship and the whole like, setting behind it, and the fact that it's like basically the final main palace in the game is really interesting. I remember nothing about the final fight. I thought the mechanics of it were pretty interesting. I thought the cruise ship design was super creative. Um, Honestly, the thing that puts it, uh, like honestly, like I've been kind of I made this list like just today. I think after watching a couple videos about this topic, but like I've gone back and forth about whether I like this or Memento Steps better, which spoiler is the next one. Um, and every time I come back to the one thing that makes Shido's Palace worse in my mind, and it is the singular worst puzzle traversal general like game, not even really a puzzle, like general like gameplay palace mechanic in the entire game, and that's that stupid thing where the statues turn you into mice. I cannot express how infuriatingly annoying this mechanic is. It doesn't make any sense either, and like finding like what tunnels you have to go through gets really tedious, and oh my god, there's so many giant ass rooms where you have to avoid so many enemies, which normally wouldn't be a problem because you're a stupid freaking mouse. You can't fight them. And it just completely kills like all uh, sense of engagement during those parts, and that's honestly what keeps it up like below Memento Steps in this list for me. Um, Number six I mentioned earlier is Memento Steps. Now this is one that is just kind of like perfectly average all around because the general like traversal, the puzzles, the gameplay, and the design of everything, because it's just like Mementos themed, is just very very generic. Um, and also the fact that you have to go all the way through every single level of Mementos is just flat out stupid. Like, I realize I probably can't really use it as a criticism against the palace itself, but I kind of just have to rant for a second because it's honestly, like, stupid how many levels of Mementos there are. Like, there's like a giant section of 10, then another of 14, then 8, then like 12 again, and then randomly like 3, and then one last giant one before you finally get to the depths. And this is coming from a perspective of like, I really didn't like exploring Mementos. I think it was one of my least favorite aspects gameplay wise about the whole game because it just felt like really tedious. I had to rant about that for a second, but as much as I want to, I don't think I can use it as a legitimate critique of this palace. Um, Um, the I don't really remember much about the whole like Holy Grail fight, but what I did really like is and the thing that honestly kind of carries this is like the boss fight was very strange. But the way that like just the entire story surrounding this, like the way it's like the conclusion to the main story, and like the disappearance of the Phantom Thieves to like them like resurgencing, and that's like the key to defeating Yaldabaoth for the final time, and then like the fact that like the twist that Igor was the imposter all along was crazy. And then learning that Caroline and Justine are actually one character that I forget the name of. But like once you like and then like there's a whole thing where you can run around the Velvet Room. And one of my favorite parts is where you give like the pep talks to all your members and free them from the cages. I thought that was awesome. I really enjoyed that, and I loved like the parallels compared to like you are basically like trapped in the cage the entire game when you're doing like the normal Velvet Room like Persona upgrade stuff. Um, and that part really just felt like it made it pay off in my mind. Also, like the connections with the people that you find in the cages is really interesting. So yeah, I'm very mixed on it because like I nothing about it stands out except for the story stuff, and so those kind of things like counteract each other to me. Number five, I have Kamoshida, and this one I think is a pretty good palace that just doesn't have anything extraordinary in it. I think that Kamoshida's a really great villain. I love the character stuff that's done for Ryuji and On. I think it's great. I thought the way that they include the tutorials in this game was in this not this game in this palace, the way that it's integrated, and it's very like slow process, not too overwhelming considering the massive amount of mechanics. It was pretty good. I enjoyed the puzzles. I really liked how they relate to him as a character, and I love the design of the castle and how you can notice like these obsessive portraits and everything like that. Like the amount of detail here is really great. I also enjoyed the boss fight. I thought it was very wacky and very like Kamoshida esque in nature, and the payoff was very satisfying. Um, also I just think there's other ones that are much better than this in one or two significant aspects. So that's why this is only number five. But I do quite enjoy Kamoshida's Palace. I would say if I had one complaint, I think like the whole thing where you have to go like hunting for the keys off the guards' bodies was kind of annoying. And also that weird like area with like the distorted staircase and stuff was kind of hard to traverse because it had like ultra strong enemies that were wandering around and it was kind of hard to hide from them. That would be my really only major complaint with it though. Otherwise I enjoyed it a good bit. Um and number four is Futaba, and this is just Kamoshida's but better because it has some of the exploration is a little bit annoying and can feel a tad tedious at times, especially like with the whole thing about the Anubis gems and whatnot. But I think honestly this palace might have my favorite puzzles in the game just because of like how much they relate to the theme. I thought the idea that it was a pyramid was really interesting. And I love the bit where you're like exploring the town trying to find the thief. I thought it was like a very interesting diversion compared to like the start of the rest of the palaces. I thought that was really interesting. Um, I think my favorite puzzle in the entire game are the ones where you're like rotating the pictures because it's so satisfying to complete, and I love just how much it relates to the character work and stuff. I enjoyed the boss fight for what it was. It could be a little bit annoying at times, but like once you figure out how it works, it's really not that bad. And then we have the best part easily, and that's Futaba as a character. Futaba is like one of the best characters in the whole game, and definitely one of the most developed members of the Phantom Thieves. Her awakening and her like being in the palace and her just entire development and like I think what really gets me with Futaba is just like the extreme length that it seems to go to, because it always seems like um it does, like it always, like compared to any other palace in the game, they really like center in on the severity of in like Futaba's guilt and all of that. And even when she's like come out of her shell to the Phantom Thieves, like until you conquer the palace, it's like it goes so much in on the issues about it, which I think is just like a level of scale that like no other palace does in terms of like the emotional climaxes with it. So yeah, I really like Futaba's a lot. Which might be a little bit confusing considering it's only number 4, but um I will get to my reasons why. Honestly, 3 and 4 could be a toss up between Futaba's, which is number 4, and my number 3, which is Madarame's Palace. This one I think I ranked higher because I feel like it's just kind of a bit more generally well-rounded. Like, I think it has enjoyable puzzles, enjoyable traversal. It doesn't feel too, like, crazy long. I really like the stuff with Yusuke as a character. The forced interactions with, like, on-posing nude, supposedly, to, like, find out the secrets are some of the most hilarious dialogue encounters in the entire game. And while Madarame is like slightly on the weaker side in terms of villains, I think that just like the way that it kind of like ties everything together feels very satisfying. I love the bit where you're jumping through paintings, and the pocket dimension bit was very unique, and it's completely unlike anything else that's in any of the other palaces, which I find really interesting. I also quite enjoy the boss fight, the stages where you're like fighting his face and like him like in the different elements. I really quite enjoyed because it added like a nice tactical element to the fight. And yeah, I love Yusuke's Awakening. It's really great. So maybe that's something I should rank. The Persona 5 Awakenings. Ooh. That's another thought for another time. But if you see a video about that, don't be surprised. Anyway, that about like rounds out. I think overall, like Madarame's, like Futaba's definitely has superior character work, but I think Madarame is just slightly more well rounded. But those two are honestly pretty close for me. The top 2 though kind of stand like pretty clearly, definitively the top 2. My number 2 is Marugu's Palace, because this takes the superb character work of Futaba and applies it to 2 characters, being Maruki himself being by far the most engaging villain in the entire game and one of the best characters, period. and Best Girl Sumire, with her whole like identity crisis and her like double persona awakening and the way that she's like manipulated by Maruki and all this stuff, and like seeing parts of her past before we get introduced to her is just amazing. And then Maruki's like, the fact that it's literally just a difference of ideals, and the fact that there's like literally like no wrongdoing in what Maruki is doing is amazing. The boss fight was incredibly long-winded. I will definitely say that, especially that first phase with all the stupid tentacles and such. And I think I must have like had to die and restart it on safe difficulty. Maybe like I don't even. It might have honestly been a dozen times. I'm not completely sure, but I honestly think it was that many. It was to quite a ridiculous degree, honestly. But I really, really love the ending and Maruki's ending as well, and how that tied into the overall ending of the game. I love the design of it being like a lab/mental hospital. It's such a unique area, and the music and the tracks that come with this are so good. Especially Throw Away Your Mask, one of the best Persona 5 tracks ever, like in the whole game. But for me, number one has definitely got to be Kaneshiro, because this is just kind of like I didn't really. There was some some puzzles I didn't really enjoy that much in Maruki's Palace, namely the weird like color switching one. But like Kaneshiro's Palace is just one I think is an example of a great palace that's really fun, that just kind of excels at everything. Because Kaneshiro is not the strongest villain. In fact, I would say Kamoshida, Madarame, and even Madarame, and absolutely Maruki are easily stronger villains than him, but like, at the same time, he's really, really over the top and goofy, and I really like that. I also love the design of it as a bank. I think it's like my favorite aesthetic of any palace in the game. The Kaneshiro boss fight is absolutely my favorite. It's so funny, the way he like turns into a disgusting fly, and then the way he gets into the Piggytron, which is just so funny, and it's also really easy. I also think the puzzles in this are actually really interesting. I didn't find the security cameras that annoying, and I generally like the mechanics of it, and I also enjoyed like how this like felt like nice and compact, compared to some other palaces, like especially Kamoshida's, that I tend to not like as much because they tend to feel very long-winded. I also absolutely love Makoto's character arc here. I think all the stuff with her character is absolutely great, and how she goes from being this like very, very unlikable character to like one of my favorites, Phantom Thieves members. So yeah, this is just like Kaneshiro's is my favorite because it just feels very nicely well rounded on everything. I am really considering making a ranking for Persona 5 Awakenings now. I'd have to think about whether I want to do that or not. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty satisfied with this list. This was a fun video to make. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.